was playing, Lane.
I didn't believe it was polite to listen, sir.
I'm sorry, that for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep the signs for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of the signs of life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches that I ordered especially for Aunt Augusta?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Lane, I was looking in the book today, and I read that when Lord Shoreman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me last Thursday, 8 bottles of champagne are recorded as having been consumed. I really asked for information.
8 bottles in a pint, sir.
Lane, why is it that at a bachelor's household, the servants invariably drink the wine?
Well, sir, I attribute the fine quality of the wine. I've often observed that married households, the wine is the best quality.
Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
Well, sir, I believe it's a very pleasant state. I've only had little experience of it myself. I've only been married once. That was a consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and the young person.
Lane, I really don't care too much for your personal life.
No, sir, it's not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
Thank you, Lane, that will do.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orderlies don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of it?
Mr. Earnest Worthing, sir.
Ernest, my dear fellow, what brings you to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating again, I see, Algy.
I believe it is customary to take some slight refreshment around 4 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who do you amuse?
Oh, neighbors, neighbors.
Got nice neighbors in Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak of them.
Well, I'm sure you amuse them. What? Shropshire is your country, is it not?
Yes, Shropshire, of course. Why these cups? Why these cucumber sandwiches? Why such extravagance in one so young? Who's coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
Well, I don't think Aunt Augusta will be delighted to see you at all.
What makes you say that?
My dear boy, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly horrid. It is almost as bad as the way she flirts with you.
I love Gwendolyn. I have come to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you said you came to town on pleasure. I call that business.
Oh, how unromantic you are!
It is very romantic to be in love, but I can see nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Say one proposes, one is usually accepted, right? And then the excitement is over. The focal point of marriage is uncertainty, and I shall certainly try to forget that fact I am married.
I have no doubt about that, dear Algy. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose marriages are so curiously constituted.
There's no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch those sandwiches. They're saved especially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you have been eating them all the time.
Well, that's a different matter. She's my aunt. Have some bread and butter. One is devoted to her.
Quite good, bread and butter. Tis too.
You needn't eat as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as if you were already married to Gwendolyn. You're not already married to her, and I don't think you ever will be.
What on earth made you say that?
Women don't marry the men they flirt with. They don't think it proper.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. And besides, I don't get my consent.
Your consent?
My dear boy, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. Before I can allow you to marry her, you must clear up this whole issue of Sicily.
Sicily? What on earth do you mean by Sicily? I don't know anyone by the name of Sicily.
Lane, please bring Mr. Worthing's cigarette case that he left here when he dined with us the other day.
Yes.
Do you mean to say that you've had my cigarette case all this time? Oh, to goodness you would have told me. I have been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard, and I was very nearly offering a large reward for it.
Well, I do wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
I don't see much use in offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
Now that I look at it, I see that it's not your cigarette case at all.
What do you mean? Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. You have no right to read what is inside. It's very ungentlemanly to read the inside of a private cigarette case.
It is absurd to make up a hard and fast rule of what one should read and what one should agree. More than half of all modern culture depends upon what one should agree.
I'm quite aware of that factor, Algy, and I don't plan to discuss modern culture. This is the sort of thing one should speak of in private. Simply give me back my cigarette case.
But now that I look at the inscription and inside, I see that it doesn't belong to you at all. It is a gift from someone by the name of Cicely, and you said you don't know anyone by that name. From little Cicely, with her fondest love.
You must know, Cicely happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too. She lives at Tunbridge Wells. For heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case.
Why did your little Aunt Cicely, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, call you her uncle? From little Cicely with her fondest love to dear Uncle Jack.
What on earth is there in that, my dear fellow? Some aunts are tall and some aunts are not tall. You seem to imply that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. Well, that is absurd. Give me back my cigarette case now.
Why an aunt, no matter what her size, should call her nephew her uncle? Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It is Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
Well, you told me your name was Ernest. You answered to the name of Ernest. I introduced you to everyone as Ernest. In fact, you even look as if your name were Ernest. In fact, you're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. And look, here's one of your cards. Mr. Ernest Worthing, beat for the Albany West. I will keep this as proof in case you ever try to deny to me that your name is Ernest, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town, and Jack in the country. The cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for your little Aunt Cicely who lives in Tunbridge Wells. Come on, boy, you'd better have this thing out at once.
Algy, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It is very vulgar to speak as if one was a dentist when one isn't. It produces a false impression.
But that's what dentists do all the time. I may mention that I have always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunbury's.
What on earth do you mean by Bunburyist?
I will tell you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you tell me why you're Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce an explanation and pray make it improbable.
I'm afraid there's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it is rather ordinary. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who lives in Belgrave Square, adopted me when I was a small boy. He, in his will, made me guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cicely Cardew. Miss Cardew, who refers to me as her uncle for motives of respect that you cannot possibly understand, lives in my country house under the charge of her admiral governess, Miss Prison.
And where is that place?
Well, that is nothing to you. You will not be invited. I may tell you candidly, though, it's not Shropshire.
Well, I suspected that. I've Bunbury all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
I don't know whether you will be able to understand my real motives or not. You're hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. It is one's duty to do so. And this high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce to one's health or one's happiness. And in order to get up to town as often as I would like, I have had to pretend to have a younger brother by the name of Ernest who lives in Albany and gets in the most terrible scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the truth. Pure and simple.
My dear fellow, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. If it were either, modern life would be a tedious thing indeed, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
Well, that wouldn't at all be a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte. Don't try it. You should leave that to those who have never been at a university. They do so well in the daily papers. What you are is a Bunburyist, and a most advanced Bunburyist at that.
Well, what on earth do you mean by Bunburyist?
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Ernest that you may be able to come to town whenever you like. I have invented an invaluable invalid friend called Bunbury in order that I may be able to go to the country whenever I please. Bunbury's perfectly invaluable. For example, if it were not for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, I would not be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I haven't been engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
But I haven't given you any invitation to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know you are absurdly careless about sending invitations. Nothing annoys people more than not receiving invitations.
I think you would be much better off dining with your Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the slightest intention of doing anything of the kind. I dine with Aunt Augusta on Monday night, and once a week is more than enough to dine with one's own relations. I'm always treated like family when I dine with her, and I'm always sitting down the table with no woman at all, or 2. And now I know exactly whom she will place me next to, Mary Farquhar. Yes, Mary Farquhar sits across the table from her own husband and flirts with him. It's not very pleasant indeed. Indeed, it's not even decent, and that sort of thing is particularly on the increase. Why, the number of women in London who flirt with their husbands is perfectly scandalous. It is like washing one's own clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to being a talk to you about it. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Budburst at all. If in fact Gwendolyn accepts me, I plan to kill my brother Ernest. I think I'll kill him in any case. Cicely is getting far too attached to him and is becoming rather a bore. I would advise you to do the same with your own oh, that invalid friend of yours with a Sir name.
Nothing will ever induce me to part with Bunbury. I pity any poor man who does not know Bunbury, for he will have a very tedious time of it.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she is the only girl that I ever cared for in my entire life, I would certainly not want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
That is the same theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
Yes, and that the happy English home is proved it half the time.
Oh, don't be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
My dear fellow, it isn't easy being anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about it. Oh, there must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I can get Aunt Augusta out of the way for 10 minutes so that you might have the chance of proposing me one more, may I please dine with you, little sister?
Oh, I suppose so if you want to.
But you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about their meals. It's so shallow.
Lady Bracknell, Miss Fairfax, sir.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well.
I am feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
It's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I am always smart, am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry we are a little bit late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her dear husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit over here, Gwendolyn?
Thanks, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane! Where are the cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them especially for Aunt Augusta.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I checked twice.
No cucumbers?
No cucumbers, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers, especially for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold.
It certainly has changed its color, from what cause I, of course, cannot imagine. Thank you, Algernon. I've quite a treat for you tonight. I'm going to send you down to Mary Farquhar. Such a delightful woman, and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch her.
I'm afraid that I will, after all, have to decline your invitation tonight, Aunt Augusta.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table entirely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
Why, just today, Aunt Augusta, I received a telegram from my poor friend Bunbury. He seems to be quite ill. They seem to think that I should be with him tonight.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I think that it is certainly high time Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. This shilly-shallying with the matter is absurd, nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I am always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice as far as any improvement in his ailments goes. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have relapse on Saturday. I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has said practically everything they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
I will speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious. And I think I can promise you that he will have a full recovery by Saturday. The music, on the other hand, is an entirely different matter. You see, if one plays good music, people don't listen. And if one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I will show you my arrangement if you will kindly step into the next room.
Thank you, Algernon. Quite considerate of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think they are inappropriate, and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed, I believe it is so. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I feel quite certain that they mean something else, and that makes me so very nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room. That I have often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolyn, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have met since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite aware of the fact, and I often wish that in public at any rate, you would be more demonstrative. For me, you have an irresistible fascination. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and has even reached the provincial pulpit, so I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name Earnest. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew that I was destined to love you.
Gwendolyn, you really love me?
Passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
Earnest, my own Earnest.
But you don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest?
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, but supposing it was something else, do you mean to say you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculation, has very little reference at all to the facts of real life as we know them.
Gwendolyn, to speak quite frankly with you, I don't like the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has an absolute confidence about it. It produces music all of its own. It has vibrations.
Really, Gwendolyn? I think there are lots of other much nicer names. Take Jack, for instance. A charming name.
Jack. Oh, many indeed in that name, Jack. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, have been more than usually plain. Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John, for she shall never know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened. We must get married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing? But
Well,
you haven't proposed to me yet.
well, surely. You know that I love you, and you lead me to believe that you're not entirely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but the subject of marriage has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it is an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I feel it only fair to tell you quite frankly that I am fully determined to accept you.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
Oh, you know what I have to say to you?
But you won't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long have you been about it?
My own one. You're the only one in the entire world that I have ever loved.
Yes, the men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They're quite blue. And I hope that you will always look at me just like that, especially when other people are present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. And besides, Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When or if you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of that fact. An engagement should always come across a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It is hardly a matter she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, of eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I'm quite prepared to enter your name, should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I do smoke.
I am pleased to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I have always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
Well, I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that interferes with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. The bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is keeping it up. That is all that can be said about that.
Well, I do owe a country house, with some land attached to it, of course, of about 1,500 acres. But I don't rely on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I know, the poachers are the only ones that gain anything from it.
A country house. How many bedrooms? Well, that matter can be cleared up afterward. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, yes, I do own a townhouse in Belgrave Square. But it is let to the year to Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I want, with 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
Oh, no, she doesn't get out much. She is considerably advanced in years.
Nowadays, that is no guarantee of respectability and character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I knew there was something. However, that can be easily altered.
Which do you mean? The fashion or the sign?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
Well, I'm afraid I really don't have any. I am a liberal unionist.
They count as Tories. They dine with us, or come in the evening at any rate. Now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I've lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? Your father was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the British newspapers call the purple of commerce, or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
Well, I'm afraid I really don't know, Lady Bracknell. The truth is, when I told you that I had lost both my parents, it would have been nearer to the truth to say that they seem to have lost me. And the truth is, well, I was found.
Found?
Yes, in a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, a large brown leather handbag with handles to it. A rather ordinary handbag, in fact.
And where was this handbag found, and by whom?
Well, it was found by the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, who, a man of great character, and he gave him the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his front coat pocket. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort. As for the location, the handbag was found in the cloakroom of Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess that I am somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life, which reminds one of the French Revolution. And I presume we all know what that unfortunate movement led to. As to the particular locality in which the handbag was found, the cloakroom at Victoria Station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion, but it could hardly be expected to provide one with a position in good society.
Oh, really, Lady Bracknell? What do you propose that I do? I need hardly say that I would do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and inquire into relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before
Good morning. Algie, how can you play that ghastly tune? How idiotic you are!
Isn't it gold? All right, old boy. You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you. Gwendolyn is always refusing people. I think it is most your nature to hurt.
Oh, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged to be married. But Lady Bracknell is unbearable. I've never met such a gorgon. I really don't know what a gorgon is like, but I'm quite sure that she is one. In any case, she is a monster without being a myth, and that is rather unfair of her. Oh, I beg your pardon, Algie. I don't suppose I should speak to you about your own relations that way in front of you.
My dear fellow, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people that haven't the remotest knowledge of how to live, nor the slightest instinct about when to die.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you about it. You always want to argue about things.
That's what things were originally made for.
Algie, honestly, if I thought that, I would shoot myself. You don't suppose that Gwendolyn will become like her mother in about 150 years, do you?
All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man ever does. That's his.
It's that cleverness.
It's perfectly phrased, and a unique observation in any civilized society.
Oh, I hate cleverness. I'm getting sick of it. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people nowadays. It's becoming rather a public nuisance. I wish to goodness that we had a few fools left.
We have.
We have. What do they talk about? I would certainly like to meet them.
The fools? Clever people, of course.
Oh, what fools!
Did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
Algie, the truth isn't the sort of thing you tell a sweet, refined girl like Gwendolyn. Oh, what extraordinary ideas you have about how to behave to women.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, or to someone else if she is plain.
Oh, that is nonsense.
What about your brother? Your brother, the profligate Earnest.
I have plans to get rid of him by the end of the week. I will say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Many people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary. That sort of thing runs in families. You'd much better say a severe chill.
But are you sure that a severe chill isn't hereditary or anything of that kind?
Of course it isn't.
Oh, well, that settles it. My poor brother Ernest is suddenly carried off in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But what about your ward, Miss Cardew? Did you not say that she had grown quite attached to your brother Ernest? Won't she feel his loss a good deal?
Oh, that is all right. Cicely is not a silly, romantic girl. She has quite a capital appetite. She takes long walks, and she doesn't pay attention at all to any of her lessons.
I would very much like to see Cicely.
Well, I will take great care that you never do. She is excessively pretty and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty ward who's only 18?
One just doesn't blurt these things out, Algie. But I'm quite certain that they will become rather good friends. In fact, I'm willing to bet you anything that you would like that they will be calling each other sister within half an hour after they meet.
My dear fellow, women only do that after they call each other a lot of other things first. Now come, we must go and dress if we want to get a good table at Willis's. It is nearly 7.
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
Oh, I've never known you when you weren't.
What shall we do after we eat? Go to a theater?
Oh, I loathe listening.
Well, let's go to a club.
Oh, no, I hate talking.
Well, we could trot round to the Empire about 10.
I can't bear to look at things. It's so silly.
Well, what shall we do?
Nothing.
I hate doing them. It's such hard work. But I don't mind hard work if there's no definite object in sight. Miss Fairfax. Oh. Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algie, calmly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude toward life. You're not quite old enough to do that.
My darling.
Ernest, I'm afraid we may never be married. From the expression on Mama's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard for what the children have to say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Any influence I had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. Although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else,
Gwendolyn.
Your romantic origin, as related to me by my mama, with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your simple character, oh, it is simply incomprehensible to me, and your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. Your town address is the only I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Woolington, Hertfordshire.
There's a good postal service, I suppose.
Oh, yes.
There might be a need for something desperate. This, of course, will take some serious consideration. How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Thank you, I already have.
You may also ring the bell for me.
You will let me see you out to your carriage, will you not, my darling?
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I shall have to ask you to put away all my dress suits, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits. Yes, I don't think I shall return until Monday.
Yes, sir.
Oh, tomorrow's a beautiful day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction.
Thank you, Lane. I will.
Thank you, sir.
Now there's a sensible intellectual girl, the only girl that I ever cared for in my entire life. What on earth are you so amused at?
Oh, I'm just a little anxious about my poor friend Bunbury.
If you don't take care, your friend Bunbury will get you in a terrible scrape someday.
I love scrapes. They're the only things that are not serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cicely, surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather Muleton's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray it open at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson. But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson. Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German as he is leaving for town. Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious that I think he cannot be quite well. Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended for one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility. I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we are together. Cicely, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. I don't marry him at triviality or out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man. His brother. I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. It might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism. I'm sure you certainly believe. You know, German and geology, things of that sort, influence a man very much. I do not think that even I can produce any effect on a man that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I am not sure I am in favor of this modern mania of turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cicely. I really don't see why you should keep one at all. I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them. Memory, my dear Cicely, is the diary that we all carry about with us. Yes, but it usually chronicles things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us. Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novels, Cicely. I wrote one myself in earlier days. Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much. Well, the good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means. I suppose so. It does seem terribly unfair. And was your novel ever published? Alas, no. It was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. To your work, child. These speculations are profitless. But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden. Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
How is we this morning? Sir, I trust well.
Miss Prism is this week complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to go for a short stroll through the park, Dr. Chasuble. I have not said anything about a headache, Cicely. I know that, dear Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when your director came in.
I hope, Cicely, you are not contented.
I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. For a farmer, Miss Prism's pupils, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor drawn from bees. Is Mr. Worthy arrived from town yet?
We did not expect Mr. Worthy back until Monday afternoon.
He usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He is not one whose sole aim in life is pleasure and enjoyment, like my Holocaust's poor, unfortunate brother seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her people any longer.
Egeria, my name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical illusion, ma'am. Merely drawn from the pagan authors, but I shall see you both, no doubt, at evening song.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache coming on after all, and a stroll might do us some good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We shall go as far as the school so that.
That would be delightful. Cicely, you will read your political economy in my absence. The follow-through repeat you may omit. It is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side. Hard political economy, hard geography, hard German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing is just driven over from the station. It's one of his lucky he's lived like this.
Mr. Ernest Worthy, B4 of Albany West. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthy was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I told him that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He seemed anxious to speak with you privately for a little.
Ask Mr. Ernest Worthy to come out here. I suppose you'd better talk to the housekeeper about the report.
Yes, miss.
Have you never met a really wicked person before? I feel rather frightened. So afraid he will look just like everybody else. He does.
You're my little cousin Cicely, I'm sure.
He must be under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cicely. You, I see from your card, are my Uncle Jack's brother. My cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
I am not wicked at all, cousin Cicely. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
Well, if you're not, then you have certainly been singing us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been living a double life, intending to be wicked and really being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I have been rather reckless.
Glad to hear it.
In fact, I've been really bad in my own special way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, though I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It's much pleasure being here with you.
Can't understand how you were here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
Well, it is a great disappointment to me that I must go on the first train Monday morning. I have an important business appointment that I'm anxious to miss.
Didn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Oh. Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But still, I think you'd better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
You're immigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
Oh, certainly not like Jack by my outfits. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you had a choice between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Unfortunately, the accounts I have of Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cicely.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
That I'm afraid I'm not. That's why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, cousin Cicely.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, when you might reform me myself this afternoon?
It's rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I'm feeling better already.
You're looking a little worse.
That's because I'm hungry.
How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite at all unless I have a buttonhole.
And when are you showing me up?
No, let's sit down and pick girls.
Why?
Because you're like a pink girl, cousin Cicely.
It can't be right for you to say such things to me. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You're the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They're a snare that any sensible man would love to be caught.
Well, I don't think I should care to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about. You are too much of Glenn, dear Dr. Chasuble. A misanthrope, I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is precisely the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. You do not seem to realize, dear Dr. Chasuble, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
And often I've been told not even to her.
Well, that depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor is drawn from fruits. Where is Sicily?
I do not know. Or she follows to the schools.
Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing?
We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you're well.
I trust the scarlet wool does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure?
dead,
Your brother Ernest is dead.
quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
You have my sincere condolences. You will always have the consolation of knowing that you are the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Oh, poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris, in fact. I received a letter from the manager of the Grand Hotel last night.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
Seems a severe chill.
As a man sows, so let him reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. I myself am terribly susceptible to dress. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seemed to express some desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that it does not point to any very serious state of mind at the end. You would no doubt wish me to make some allusion to this next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the man in the wilderness can be adopted in any situation, joyful, or the case of parents. I've delivered it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmation, on festival days and on days of humiliation. The last time, I delivered the charity sermon on behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. The bishop was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
That reminds me. You mentioned christening, Dr. Chasuble. You do know how to christen, all right, don't you? I mean, I suppose you are continually christening, aren't you?
That is one of the rector's most constant duties in the parish. I have spoken to some of the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant you wish baptized? Your brother, I believe, was unmarried.
Oh, indeed. It is not for any child. I'm very fond of children. No, it is I who would like to be christened this afternoon, if that would be okay with you.
But surely you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any great doubts on the subject?
Of course, I do intend to have, but I really don't know how you would feel on the subject. You don't think that I might be a little too old now?
No, not at all. The sprinkling, as well as immersion of adults, is a perfectly canonical.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehension. Sprinkling is all that is necessary or indeed advisable, with our weather being so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot down about 5 if that would suit you.
Excellent. I have two similar ceremonies performed at the same hour. A case of twins that occurred recently on one of the outlying cottages of your own estate. Poor Jenkins departed, a most hard-working man.
Oh, no, I don't see much fun in being christened with other babies. That would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Fine, fine. But I must not disturb or tread to this house of woe any longer. I must be going now.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I'm pleased to see you back. But what horrid clothes you've got on. Do go and change them. Cicely!
My child, my child.
Uncle Jack, do look happy. You look as if you had a toothache, and I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
Well, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him. Won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings.
After we were all resigned to his death, his return seemed so distressing.
My brother is in the dining room? I don't know what this all means. I think it is all absurd. Oh, good heavens!
Brother John, I've come to apologize for all the trouble I've caused you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think it's coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, there's some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be much good in one who is kind to an
Oh, so he's been talking to you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury. I won't have him talk to you about anything. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Well, I do agree that most of the faults were on my side, but I think that Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful, especially since I expected a more enthusiastic one, especially since it was my first time to come.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, it's the last time I will ever do it.
It is great, is it not, to see so wonderful a reconciliation in brothers? I think we should leave them alone.
Cicely, you will come with us. Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
It's been a wonderful thing you've done, dear child.
Let's not be premature in our judgments. I feel very happy.
Algie, you young scoundrel. You have no right to be here. You must get out of here at once.
I've unpacked Mr. Ernest's things and put them in the next year. I suppose that is all right.
What?
His luggage there is being put into his address and keys a large hat box.
His luggage?
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, call the dog cart at once. Mr. Ernest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. No one has called me back to town.
Oh, yes, you have been called back.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you.
My duty as a gentleman does not interfere to the slightest degree with my pleasure.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cicely is a dear.
You won't talk to Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. And I think it is childish that you're in deep mourning for a man who's actually staying as a guest at your house the entire week. I call it grotesque.
You're not staying in my house for an entire week. Not as a guest or as anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train.
Not while you're in deep mourning. If I were in deep mourning, I would hope that you would stay with me the entire week. If not, I think it would be most unkind of you.
Well, if I change my clothes, will you go?
Yes, if you don't take too long. I've never seen someone take so long to dress with so little result.
Well, in any case, that is better than being as overdressed as you always are.
but I'm occasionally overdressed and make up for it by being immensely overeducated.
Algie, your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct and outrage and your presence here in my garden is utterly absurd. However, you have got to leave by the 4:05, and I hope you will have a pleasant trip back to town. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success at all.
I think that it's been a great success. I love Cicely and that is everything. But I must make another trip from Bunbury to come down because I need to see her before I leave. There she is.
I'm really looking back to order the flowers. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's going to order the dog cart for me.
It's going to take you for a nice drive.
He's going to send me away.
And have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's a sad party.
It is always painful to part from people from what is known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity. But even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
It can wait, Marion, for 5 minutes.
Cicely, I hope not to offend you when I said that you seem to be the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. Well, if you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
You really keep a diary? I'd love to read it, ma'am.
Oh, no. You see, it's simply a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I would like to take him down to dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more. Don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cicely, ever since I've gazed on your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cicely,
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
well, tell her to come around next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on until next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jay. I don't care about you. Who will marry me? Won't you, Cicely?
You silly boy, of course. Boy, you've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And, of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling, and when was our engagement actually settled?
Well, on the 14th of February last, when out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I decided to end the matter one way or the other. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day, I bought this little ring in your name, and this is the bangle of the two lovers' knot I promised you always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's these news have always given freely such a bad life. And this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
But, my dear Cicely, I've never written you letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I always wrote 3 times a week and sometimes oftener.
May I read them?
Oh no, it would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I'd broken off our engagement were so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Well, of course it was, on the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But what had I done, Cicely? I'd done nothing. I'm very much hurt to hear that you broke off our engagement, especially when the weather was so charming.
Well, it would have hardly been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
What an angel you are.
Dear romantic boy. Hope miracles naturally, does it?
Yes, with help from others.
So glad.
Cicely, you'll never break off our engagement with me.
Well, I don't think I could now I've actually met you. And of course there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
Well, you mustn't laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone with the name of Earnest. The name seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
You mean to say that you cannot love me if I had some other name?
What name?
Oh, any name, say Algernon, for instance.
Then I don't like the name Algernon.
My dear, sweet, loving little darling, I can't see why you should should object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. In fact, it is a rather aristocratic name. Half of all the chaps who get into bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, sister, couldn't you love me for a name around?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecilia Rector is here. I assume he is thoroughly experienced in the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most noted man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once on the most important Christian. I mean on the most important business.
Oh,
Well, I shan't be away for more than half an hour.
well, considering that we have been engaged since February the 14th and that I only met you for the first time today, I think it is rather hard that usually we leave this long period as half an hour. Wouldn't you like to come in?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much, I have to introduce the closing in my diary.
Miss Fairfax just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, she stated.
Is it Mr. Worthing in his library?
I saw Mr. Worthing in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask the lady to come out here, so you can bring tea.
Yes, please.
Miss Fairfax, I suppose one of the many good elderly women associated with Uncle Jack and some of his philanthropic work in Yorkshire. I don't like women who are interested in philanthropic work. It's too forward of them.
Miss Fairfax, yes.
Pray let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cicely Cardew. Cicely Cardew. What a very sweet name. I feel that we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong. How kind of you to like me so much after we've known each other such a comparatively short time. Won't you sit down? Thank you. I may call you Cicely, may I not? With pleasure. And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you? If you wish. Then that is all quite settled, is it not? I hope so. Perhaps this might be a favorable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've never heard of Papa, I suppose? I don't think so. Papa, I'm glad to say, is entirely unknown outside the family circle. That is quite the way I think it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper sphere for a man, and once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate. And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. So you don't mind me looking at you through my glasses, do you? Oh, not at all. In fact, I'm very fond of being looked at. You're here on a short visit, I suppose? Oh, no, I live here. Indeed. Your mother or some female relative of advanced years resides here also? Oh, no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations. Really? Yes, my dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Wisdom, has the arduous task of looking after me. Your guardian? I'm Mr. Worthing's ward. Oh, he never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I'm not sure, however, that the news inspires me with unmixed feelings of delight. Cicely, I've grown very fond of you. But I must feel that I have to state this fact to you. Now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, one can't help expressing a wish you were well. A little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly, well, pray do. I think that whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid. Well, to speak with perfect candor, Cicely, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty to him would be as impossible as deception. But even men of the strongest possible noble character are extremely susceptible to the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history gives us many painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, history would be quite unreadable. I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest? Yes. Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother. Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother. Well, I'm sorry to say they have not been on very marriage seems distasteful to most men. Cicely, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would be terrible if a cloud of any kind came across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you're quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing whom is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dearest Gwendolyn, there's no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our little country newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
Cicely, I'm afraid there must be some slight error. You see, Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to be married to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
You must be under some misconception, Gwendolyn. For Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is very curious. For Ernest asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. You see, I never travel without my diary. One always should have something sensational to read on the train. I'm so sorry, dear Cicely, if it is any disappointment to you, but I am afraid I do have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I could tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
The poor boy has been entrapped into any foolish promise. I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this matter, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for wearing a shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is quite obvious that our social spheres have been different.
I'll leave it to you as usual.
Yes, as usual.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
A great many. From the top floor of the hills to White Close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? Oh, I'm afraid I would not like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Well, flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
It is hard for me to see how anyone manages to exist in the country. That is, if anybody who is anybody does, in fact. The country always bores me to death.
This is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering from it very much just at present. It is almost an epidemic amongst them, I've been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is not seen in the best of homes nowadays. You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I asked you most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my character, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I felt that you were false and deceitful. I'm never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I'm trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest, my own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
A moment. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
Dear little Cicely, what could have ever put such an idea into a pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I mean, there must be some mistake, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my dear guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack?
Oh. Here's Ernest.
My own love.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
Good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Yes, good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean,
I know. What could have put such an idea in your pretty little head?
I knew there must be some slight error, Miss Cardell. The gentleman whom is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh! Are you really called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I can deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John. It has been John for years.
Gross deception has been practiced on both of us, Gwendolyn.
My poor wounded Cicely.
My sweet rogue Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
Of course.
Oh!
There's just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to be allowed to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, and it is of some importance where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cicely, it pains me very much to be forced to speak the truth. For in fact, I have never been reduced to such a painful position in all of my life. But I must speak candidly. I have no brother Ernest. In fact, I have no brother at all. I have never had a brother, and I have not the smallest intention of ever having one in the future.
No, brother Philip?
None.
Have you never a brother of any kind?
Never. Not of any kind.
I'm afraid it is quite clear, dear Cicely. Neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It's not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
No. Let us go into the house. They will not venture to follow us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, the most wonderful Bunbury it is. In fact, the most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had.
We have no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
One has a right to Bunbury when anyone chooses. Every serious Bunbury knows that.
Serious bunbury, good heavens.
One must be serious about something if you want to gain any amusement from life. I have to be serious about Bunbury. What you're serious about, I haven't the remotest idea. About everything, I should fancy you have such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I've got from this whole wretched business is the fact that your dear friend, Mr. Bunbury, has been quite exploded. You won't be able to venture down to the country quite so often as you used to, my dear Algy, and a good thing it is, too.
Well, Jack, your brother is a little off color, isn't he? You won't be able to escape the town as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing, is it?
And as for your conduct of Miss Cardew, I think that your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. Not to mention the fact that she is my ward.
Well, I can see no possible evidence for your receiving a thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, not to mention that she's my cousin.
I love Gwendolyn. I wanted to be engaged to her. That is all. I love her.
Well, I wanted to be engaged to Cicely. I adore her.
Well, there's no chance at all of you ever marrying Miss Cardew.
Well, I don't think Jack there's much likelihood of you and Miss Fairfax ever getting married.
Well, that is no business of yours.
If it were my business, I wouldn't talk about it. Only people like Stockport do that, and then at dinner parties.
Oh, Algy, how can you sit there calmly eating muffins? I can't make it out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
Well, one can't eat muffins in any agitated state, the butter would probably get all over my toast. One sheet muffin is quite common because it owns it.
I say it's perfectly heartless of you to eat muffins at all under the circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, I refuse everything except food or drink. Ask anyone who knows me closely, they will tell you the truth.
Well, you don't have to eat them all in that free way.
Jack, I wish you would have tea cake. I hate tea cake.
Oh, I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
That's what you said. It was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That is an entirely different matter.
That may be, but the muffins are still the same.
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't ask me to leave without having dinner. I never go without my dinner. It's absurd. Only vegetarians and people like that go without their dinner. Besides, I've just made arrangements with Dr. Choswell to be christened by the name of Earnest at 46.
Well, the sooner you give that up, my dear fellow, the better. I have made arrangements this morning with Dr. Choswell to be christened at 5:30, and I will naturally take on the name of Earnest. Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened as Earnest. It would be absurd. And there is no evidence of me ever being christened at all by anyone, and I think it quite probable that I never was, and so does Dr. Choswell. You, on the other hand, have already been christened.
Yes, but I haven't been christened for years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing.
So I know my constitution can stand. You have never been christened. And I think it very dangerous that you're venturing on it so late in life. It might make you very unwell. Need I remind you that just a few days ago someone very near and dear to you was very nearly carried off and perished by a severe chill?
Yes, but you said yourself that a severe chill wasn't hereditary.
Well, it used to be. I dare say now. Science is making wonderful improvements on things.
Oh, that is nonsense. You are always speaking nonsense.
Jack, you're at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't.
But I hate tea cake.
And why do you serve it to your guests? What ideas you have on hospitality?
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go. I've already told you to go. Why don't you just go?
I haven't finished my tea yet, and there are still 5 muffins left.
Oh!
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
They would eat muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us with effrontery. They're approaching. That's very forward of them. Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly. It's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, there is a question I would like to be allowed to put to you. Much depends on your reply.
Your common sense is invaluable, Gwendolyn. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have the pleasure of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory answer, huh?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
Well, I don't, but that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True, in matters of grave importance, it is style, not sincerity, that is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, there is one question I would like to ask you. Why did you pretend to have a brother? Was it that in order that you might have an opportunity to come to town as often as possible to visit me?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon this subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism. Your explanations seem quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
Well, I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. No.
True. There are things at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should break the news to them? It is not a pleasant task.
Could we both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I almost always speak at the same time as others. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
You are Christian names are still an inseparable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names, is that all? But we plan to be christened this afternoon.
For me, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
For me, you are prepared to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
Darling,
Yes, darling.
Darling. Lady Black.
Oh, good heavens!
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, of physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trustworthy maid, I followed her at once by luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is enduring a more than unusual lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the effect of a prolific come on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any matter. I would consider it wrong. But you must understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately.
But I am engaged to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
Pardon me, sir, you are nothing of the kind. And now as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh no, Bunbury's somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Yes, I killed Bunbury himself. Bunbury died.
What did he die of?
Bunbury, he was found out. Oh, Bunbury was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
No, Bunbury was found out. The doctors found out that he could not live, so he died.
He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. However, I am glad that at the last he made up his mind about a definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we have finally got rid of Mr. Bunbury, Mr. Worthing, may I ask who is this young lady whose hand my nephew Algernon is holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady happens to be Miss Cicely Cardew, my ward.
Cicely and I are engaged to be married, Aunt Augusta.
I do not know whether there is anything particularly encouraging in this peculiar area of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements going on seems to be considerably above the number the statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely require information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any persons or families whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew happens to be the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of Belgrave Square, southwest. Gervais Park, Dorking Sharif, the Sporran, Fifershire, North B.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known strange errors in that publication, sir.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby. A firm of the very highest position in the profession. Indeed, I am told that one of the Mr. Markbys is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
Oh, how gracious of you, Lady Bracknell. You will also be pleased to hear that I have carefully preserved certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
A life crowded with incident. Though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl, I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure. Mr. Worthing, as a matter of form, I'd better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, just about 130,000 pounds in the funds. That is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So happy to have seen you again.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. 130,000 pounds, you say, and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities, any of the qualities that you, child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as if nature might have left it that way. But we can soon alter all that. A thoroughly experienced French maid uses a really marvelous method in a short space of time. Why, I remember recommending one to young Lady Lansing, and after 3 months her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, no one knew her.
Turn around, child. Mom has nothing but his debts to depend on. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind. But I would never dream of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
And you may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I am not in favor of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of discovering each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
I beg your pardon, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is entirely out of the question. According to her grandfather's will, she cannot be married without my consent until she legally becomes of age, and that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may say ostentatiously, eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more could you desire?
It pains me very much to speak frankly to you about your nephew, but I think he has a very bad moral character. In fact, I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He is an Oxonian.
I'm sure that there can be no doubt on the matter. I'm quite aware that this afternoon, when I was away in London on a question of romance, your nephew gained admission to my house under the false pretense of being my brother, and under an assumed name he drank. I've just been told by my butler an entire pint of my Perrier Jouet Fruit 89 wine, a wine I was especially reserving for myself. And then he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. And then after that, he stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin. And what makes his behavior even so much the worse is the fact that all along he knew that I had no brother. He knew that I had no brother at all, and nor did I wish to have one in the future. In fact, I told him myself this yesterday afternoon.
Anne, Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's behavior towards you.
Oh, thank you, Lady Bracknell, but I'm afraid that my decision is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, my dear. How old are you, child?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always get to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You are quite right to make this slight observation. No woman should be ever entirely accurate about her age. I'm so calculated. 18, but admitted to 20 when going to evening parties. Well, it will not be too long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage, so I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Oh, pray excuse me again, Lady Bracknell. But according to her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not legally become of age till she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a great objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the highest birth who have of their own volition remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is a case in point. To my knowledge, she has been 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40. And that was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not be still more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present. There will be a large accumulation of property.
Well, I will not let this marriage take place. Wait. Lady Bracknell, do you realize that this entire situation is in your hands? Why, if you agree to my marriage with Gwendolyn, then I will gladly accept an alliance between your nephew and my ward.
You must realize that what you have just proposed is entirely out of the question.
Well, then a passionate celibacy is all that any of us can wish for.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, may choose for himself. Gwendolyn, we have already missed 5, if not